Cities empty. Streets littered with echoes of life before the infection. 4 survivors, 1 mission. Stay together, stay alive. But the world of Left 4 Dead is more than just a zombie apocalypse. It's a world where every building, every bloodstain, every broken barricade tells a story. Where the infected aren't just monsters, they're people. In this video, we're going to explore 60+ dark, forgotten, and haunting facts about Left 4 Dead. The kind of secrets Valve buried in the shadows, and only the most curious players ever found. So whether you're here to learn, relax, or just relive the terror, stay close, stay quiet, and keep your flashlight on. It's gonna be a long night. Fact number 1. The infected were originally meant to speak. Early concept art and voice files reveal that the infected weren't always meant to be mindless husks. Valve initially planned for them to speak fragmented phrases, echoing memories of their former lives. In one cut line, a hunter mutters, "Help me," while another file had a boomer saying, "I'm hungry." The idea was scrapped for being too unsettling, but the implication remains: the infected remember what they were. Fact number 2. Bill's death wasn't random, it was foreshadowed. In the passing, we learn that Bill sacrificed himself to keep the bridge generator running. But if you look closely in earlier campaigns, there are subtle clues to his fate. In the finale of Blood Harvest, Bill says, "I ain't gonna make it." In Dead Air, he mutters, "I've seen enough wars to know how this one ends." Valve was setting up his fate long before they pulled the trigger. Fact number 3. The witch sings her own lullaby. The haunting, mournful cries of the witch are more than just eerie ambience. They're actually fragments of a lullaby she sings to herself, reflecting a memory of her former life. The voice actor recorded it in a hushed, almost childlike tone. It's a chilling reminder that the witch wasn't always a monster. She was once human, grieving the life she lost. Fact number 4. The director AI controls more than just zombies. The director AI isn't just responsible for spawning infected. It controls lighting, music, sound cues, and even the placement of corpses. It monitors each player's health, ammo, and stress level, ramping up tension when the team is struggling, or pulling back when they're overwhelmed. The director is a dynamic storyteller, constantly adapting to keep you on edge. Fact number 5. The jockey's laugh is a distorted human scream. The jockey's maniacal cackle isn't random. It's a heavily distorted, pitch-shifted recording of a real human scream, layered with additional effects. Valve's sound designers wanted the jockey to feel like a twisted, rabid parody of a human. Someone who's lost their mind but still remembers the thrill of causing pain. Fact number 6. The hospital in No Mercy was based on a real location. The eerie, blood-splattered hallways of Mercy Hospital were inspired by a real, abandoned hospital in Seattle that Valve developers explored. They recorded ambient sounds, took photographs, and used the building's layout as the blueprint for No Mercy. The elevator sequence, the ICU wing, and the rooftop finale are all one-to-one recreations of the real hospital. Fact number 7. Zoe's voice actor was almost replaced in Left 4 Dead 2. After Left 4 Dead 1, Valve considered recasting Zoe's voice actor, Jennifer Hale, for the sequel. But fan backlash convinced them to keep her on for the passing DLC, where she reprised her role with a darker, more world-weary tone. It's one of the few times Valve directly responded to player demand. Fact number 8. The boomer's guts were inspired by exploding corpses. Valve's concept artists watched footage of animal carcasses bursting from gas buildup, using it as a grotesque reference for the boomer's explosive death animation. The sickening splatter effect was achieved by blending ground beef, gelatin, and red paint, a practical effect that still haunts players years later. Fact number 9. CEDA was based on FEMA's real-life controversies. The Civil Emergency and Defense Agency, CEDA, in Left 4 Dead 2, was inspired by the real-life FEMA, which was criticized for its handling of major crises. Valve's version portrays CEDA as overwhelmed, incompetent, and often more dangerous than the infected. A dark mirror of how government agencies can fail the very people they're meant to protect. Fact number 10. The smoker was originally a female infected. Early concept art shows the smoker as a twisted, elongated female figure, her neck stretched grotesquely with tumors. Valve ultimately changed the design to a male infected, but kept the smoker's suffocating cough and deadly tongue, maintaining the idea of a character who uses its body as a weapon. Fact number 11. The tank's rage music was inspired by zombie films. The tank's theme, that pounding, relentless track that kicks in when it spawns, was inspired by the driving percussion and chaotic rhythms of classic zombie movies like 28 Days Later and Dawn of the Dead. Valve wanted the music to feel like a literal heartbeat, a racing pulse that mimics the survivor's rising fear as the tank closes in. Fact number 12. The hunter's pounce was originally a grab mechanic. In early builds, the hunter didn't leap. It grabbed survivors with its claws, dragging them to the ground and pinning them. Playtesters found it too difficult to escape, so Valve reworked the mechanic, turning it into a high-velocity pounce. The grab animation remained, though, now repurposed as the hunter's finishing move after a successful pounce. Fact number 13. The Passing DLC contains hidden graves for each survivor. In the Passing, you can find 3 graves marked with wooden crosses and bloodstains, one for each of the original survivors. Bill's grave is freshly dug, while Louis, Zoe, and Francis have old, abandoned graves. This detail was meant to represent the alternate timeline where the other 3 died, hinting that the infection's toll extends far beyond what we see in the main story. Fact number 14. The infected were initially smart, too smart. Early versions of the Director AI programmed the infected to ambush players, set traps, and retreat to regroup. Testers found it too punishing, feeling more like fighting organized soldiers than mindless zombies. Valve dialed it back, making the infected more animalistic and unpredictable. But some of that early code still lingers, leading to moments where infected appear to act strategically. Fact number 15. The bridge collapse in the parish was based on real disaster footage. The bridge finale in the parish was inspired by footage of real-life bridge collapses and evacuations, particularly the I-35W Mississippi River Bridge collapse in 2007. Valve studied the footage to recreate the chaos, panic, and desperate escape as survivors raced to the rescue chopper, with zombies pouring in from every side. Fact number 16. Zoe was modeled after a real person, but not her voice actor. Zoe's design was based on a Valve employee's niece, who was brought in to pose for reference photos during early development. Her face and mannerisms made it into the final model, but her voice was provided by Jen Taylor, best known for voicing Cortana in the Halo series. This mix of real-world inspiration and professional voice work made Zoe one of the most human-seeming survivors. Fact number 17. The church guy in Death Toll is hiding a dark secret. In the Death Toll campaign, you encounter a paranoid man barricaded in a church, ringing the bell and screaming for help. What most players miss is that he's already infected. You can hear him coughing and muttering about feeling sick long before he turns. His fate serves as a chilling reminder that even the survivors you meet are already doomed, whether they know it or not. Fact number 18. The boomer was designed to punish lone wolves. The boomer's vomit attack was deliberately created to punish players who strayed too far from the group. Covered in bile, they attract a horde of infected, but their teammates can use the distraction to regroup. Valve intentionally designed the boomer as a psychological weapon, forcing players to stick together or risk becoming overwhelmed. Fact number 19. The Sacrifice campaign references unused campaign locations. In the Sacrifice, the survivors cross a shipyard, a train yard, and a power station. These locations were originally part of a cut campaign called The Lighthouse, which would have had the survivors making their way along a coastal path to a lighthouse finale. While the full campaign was scrapped, Valve repurposed several of its set pieces, incorporating them into the Sacrifice. Fact number 20. The Midnight Riders Band was a last-minute addition. The Midnight Riders, the fictional rock band that appears in posters, graffiti, and the concert finale in Dark Carnival, were added late in development. Originally, the concert arena was just a generic stage with a loudspeaker finale. The developers decided to flesh it out, creating the Midnight Riders and giving them a full backstory, complete with song lyrics and merchandise that imply they escaped the apocalypse. Or did they? Fact number 21. Each campaign represents a different stage of the infection. If you look closely, each Left 4 Dead campaign represents a different phase of the outbreak. No Mercy is the early days, with hospitals still intact and evac plans in place. Death Toll shows the infection spreading to rural areas, with towns overrun and survivors turning to religion. Dead Air is the collapse of major infrastructure, with planes crashing and evacuation attempts failing. By Blood Harvest, civilization is gone, just 4 survivors in the middle of nowhere, desperately trying to escape. Valve structured the campaigns to tell the story of a world falling apart, piece by piece. Fact number 22. The Witch was modeled after meth addicts and depressed women. The Witch is one of the most disturbing infected in the game, and her design was inspired by a combination of methamphetamine addicts and women suffering from severe depression. Valve studied footage of people who had been awake for days, pacing and crying to capture that sense of utter despair. The result is a character who isn't just dangerous, she's heartbreaking. A person trapped in a cycle of grief and rage, unable to stop crying for what she's lost. Fact number 23. CEDA spray paints hint at a failed vaccine attempt. In Left 4 Dead 2, you'll see CEDA, Civil Emergency and Defense Agency, signs that read, Evacuation Center and Vaccine Here. But the centers are always empty, overrun, or blood-soaked. This suggests that CEDA tried and failed to develop a vaccine, or worse, that the vaccine itself was a trap to lure survivors. The implication? CEDA was either too late to save anyone or deliberately left them behind. Fact number 24. The infected are based on rage virus zombies, not the undead. Unlike traditional zombies, the infected in Left 4 Dead aren't undead. They're based on the rage virus zombies from 28 Days Later, living humans driven mad by a pathogen. Valve deliberately designed them to move, react, and sound like feral, rabid humans, not shambling corpses. This decision made the infected more terrifying, because they still have a twisted spark of humanity. Fact number 25. Francis was originally going to die instead of Bill. In early drafts of The Sacrifice, it was Francis, not Bill, who was meant to die. Valve changed it because Bill was the oldest, the most world-weary, and the most likely to sacrifice himself for the others. Francis, meanwhile, was the most selfish and cynical. His arc would have been less impactful. But you can still find early concept art showing Francis as the one lying dead next to the generator. Fact number 26. The safe rooms are full of survivors' stories. Every safe room is covered in graffiti, but it's more than just random scrawl. Valve designed the messages to tell fragmented stories of other survivors. People looking for lost loved ones, groups warning each other about infected behavior, survivors losing hope after weeks of hiding. Each safe room is a tiny, tragic snapshot of a person or group who didn't make it. They survived long enough to leave a message, and then vanished. Fact number 27. The jockey is the smallest, special infected, and the smartest. The jockey may be small, but he's one of the most dangerous infected. His AI is programmed to seek out hazards like cliffs, fire, and spitter acid, dragging survivors into danger. Valve wanted the jockey to feel like a sadistic gremlin, a twisted childlike creature that doesn't just attack. It toys with its victims, cackling as it steers them toward death. Fact number 28. Dark Carnival's clown zombies attract the horde. In Dark Carnival, you encounter infected clowns whose squeaky shoes attract nearby infected. This mechanic was inspired by the idea that sounds carry further in chaos, and that a single misplaced noise can spell death in an apocalypse. It's a subtle, horrifying reminder that the infected aren't just dangerous. They're drawn to anything that sounds human, even a clown's playful squeak. Fact number 29. The hunter's scream is a layered animal and human sound. The hunter's iconic scream is a blend of animal and human vocalizations. Valve layered in sounds of a big cat's roar, a coyote's howl, and a man's scream, then distorted and echoed them to create the hunter's terrifying shriek. This combination was meant to blur the line between man and beast, making the hunter feel like a person who's lost their humanity, but still has enough left to suffer. Fact number 30. The Midnight Riders' songs have hidden lyrics about the infection. The Midnight Riders' rock songs like Midnight Ride and One Bad Man seem like typical rock anthems until you listen closely. The lyrics reference quarantine zones, military lockdowns, and the fear of becoming infected, hinting that the writers saw the infection coming and tried to warn people through their music. Their fate is left ambiguous, but their tour bus is empty and bloodstained, suggesting they didn't make it out. Fact number 31. The infected retain memories of their former lives, while the infected are feral and mindless. Subtle behavior patterns suggest they still remember pieces of who they were. Boomers stagger toward food areas, jockeys target confined spaces, and witches sit and cry in dark corners, cradling their knees like they're mourning something lost. Valve intentionally designed these behaviors to convey that the infected are still aware on some level, trapped in a nightmare they can't escape. Fact number 32. The Dark Carnival finale hints at what the infected truly fear. During the concert finale in Dark Carnival, you blast rock music to attract the chopper. But the infected don't just run toward the noise. They attack the speakers and lights in a frenzy, almost as if they're trying to silence it. Valve developers have suggested that the infected are sensitive to sound and light, which is why they gather in dark, quiet places and avoid well-lit areas. The implication: music doesn't just draw them in, it terrifies them. Fact number 33. The common infected are becoming more deformed over time. If you compare the infected from Left 4 Dead 1 to Left 4 Dead 2, you'll notice subtle differences. Their bodies are more bloated, twisted, and visibly decaying in the sequel. This was a deliberate design choice by Valve to show that the infection is mutating, accelerating the infected's physical deterioration and making them more monstrous over time. Fact number 34. The flooded streets and hard rain were based on real hurricane footage. The storm and hard rain wasn't just a random weather effect. Valve studied footage of Hurricane Katrina and other natural disasters to capture the sense of a town drowning under relentless rain. The flooded streets, collapsing houses, and desperate notes from survivors are all echoes of real-world disasters, reimagined in a zombie apocalypse setting. Fact number 35. The survivors themselves leave clues in graffiti. Throughout the campaigns, you'll find graffiti messages left by other survivors, but not all of them are from unknown groups. Some were written by the survivors themselves, either before or during their journey. In Dead Center, you can find a wall scrawled with Zoe's iconic line, "This is just getting worse and worse." It's a chilling reminder that the survivor's journey is part of a larger, interconnected story. Fact number 36. The witch is drawn to areas of trauma and grief. If you pay attention to the witch's locations, you'll notice she often appears in child-themed areas, playgrounds, bedrooms, nurseries. Valve deliberately placed her in these settings to imply that she's drawn to places connected to her past life, as if she's unconsciously seeking out memories of when she was human. This detail adds a layer of tragedy to her already terrifying presence. Fact number 37. The Coldstream DLC was based on a community mod. The Coldstream DLC was originally a community-made campaign created by Matthew Lord-Lett, a fan developer. Valve was so impressed by its design and atmosphere that they officially adopted it, refining its levels and making it part of the main game. Coldstream's frantic, relentless pacing and overwhelming infected waves were a deliberate homage to the difficulty of early fan mods. Fact number 38. The spitter was added to break survivor camping strategies. In the first game, survivors would camp in corners or tight spaces, making them nearly invincible against infected waves. The spitter was specifically designed to counter that strategy, forcing players to keep moving or take serious acid damage. Her acidic bile not only splits groups up, but also prevents players from lingering in one spot, keeping the tension high. Fact number 39. Ellis's stories are references to real Valve inside jokes. Ellis's wild, rambling stories about his friend Keith aren't just comic relief. They're based on real-life Valve developers and their weird, over-the-top anecdotes. During Left 4 Dead 2's development, the team would share bizarre, exaggerated stories during late-night work sessions. The writers took those tales and funneled them into Ellis, making him a lovable, goofy storyteller in the middle of a nightmare. Fact number 40. The Passing's intro scene mirrors the first game's ending. In The Passing, the survivors from the original game are seen holding off a horde on a bridge, a direct callback to the ending of the original Left 4 Dead. It's implied that the bridge fight was their final stand, leading to Bill's death and their arrival at the bridge in a state of exhaustion and grief. This callback not only connects the two games, but also serves as a haunting reminder that even the strongest survivors can't escape the infection forever. Fact number 41. The jockey's laughter was designed to mimic demented laughter therapy. The jockey's laugh wasn't just meant to sound maniacal. It was specifically designed to mimic real-life laughter therapy, where patients are encouraged to laugh hysterically as a form of emotional release. Valve's sound team layered in human giggles, shrieks, and guttural noises to make the jockey's laugh feel both human and horrifying, a twisted parody of joy in a world gone mad. Fact number 42. The military's absence is deliberate and sinister. Throughout both games, you hear survivors mention the military, but you never actually see any soldiers, dead or alive. That's not an oversight. Valve wanted the military to feel like a looming, invisible force, pulling strings from behind the scenes. Radio broadcasts suggest that the military may have been responsible for some of the infection's spread, using quarantine zones as traps rather than safe havens. Fact number 43. The safe rooms were modeled after real-life storm shelters. Valve designed the safe rooms to feel like storm shelters, referencing real bunker structures used in tornado-prone areas of the U.S. The steel doors, concrete walls, and claustrophobic interiors were meant to evoke the feeling of being trapped in a tiny, vulnerable space, safe for now, but only as long as the infected don't break through. Fact number 44. Francis has a tattoo of his former motorcycle club. If you look closely, Francis's tattoos aren't random. They bear the logo of a fictional biker gang called the Devil's Hand, a group he was part of before the outbreak. Valve included this detail to hint at Francis's violent past and to explain why he's so skilled at handling firearms and blunt weapons. It's a tiny, often overlooked clue to a character with more depth than he lets on. Fact number 45. The infected followed sound design rules. Based on predator animals, Valve's sound team designed the infected to vocalize based on real-world predator behavior. Hunters use high-pitched screeches, similar to hawks. Boomers emit low, guttural noises, like bears or wild boars. The intent was to give each infected a distinct audio profile, allowing players to identify them by sound alone, even in the dark. Fact number 46. The Passing's wedding scene was based on cut content. In The Passing, you pass through a church where a wedding reception has been violently interrupted by the infection. This scene was based on a cut campaign where the survivors would have fought through a wedding party gone wrong, with infected bridesmaids, a tank in a tuxedo, and a finale involving a desperate run through a ruined banquet hall. Only fragments of that concept remain in the church set piece. Fact number 47. The infected's eye glow was added to create the sense of being watched. Originally, the infected didn't have glowing eyes, but Valve added it during testing to make them more terrifying. The eerie, animalistic glow is a visual cue, allowing players to spot infected in the dark. But it also creates the sensation that you're being watched, even when no one is there. This subconscious fear of unseen eyes adds to the game's oppressive, haunted atmosphere. Fact number 48. The Spitter's acid pits were inspired by industrial chemical spills. The Spitter's acid pools weren't just designed as an area denial mechanic. They were inspired by real-life chemical spills, where corrosive waste eats through concrete and asphalt. Valve's art team studied footage of industrial accidents to accurately replicate the bubbling, hissing effect of the Spitter's bile, making it feel like a weaponized version of something horrifyingly real. Fact number 49. The Dark Carnival campaign was almost a full amusement park. In early development, Dark Carnival was intended to be a massive amusement park, complete with a roller coaster, haunted house, and tunnel of love. The team scaled it back due to time constraints, keeping only the carousel and coaster, but remnants of the original concept still appear in posters and environmental storytelling, like the bloodied entrance to the funhouse that players never get to explore. Fact number 50. The witch's behavior changes based on the time of day. During the day, the witch is calm, stationary, and sobbing, but at night, she wanders around, more aggressive and unpredictable. Valve designed this to emphasize the difference between day and night, making the world feel more dynamic and dangerous after dark. It also subtly reinforces the idea that the infected are becoming more animalistic, unable to settle, unable to sleep, driven by an endless, gnawing hunger. Fact number 51. The infection is airborne, but not for everyone. The infection in Left 4 Dead is described as a mutating pathogen, capable of spreading through the air, blood, and saliva. But while most people succumb within hours or days, the survivors are shown to be immune. This implies that the virus is actively seeking new ways to mutate, possibly adapting to overcome immunity. Graffiti in safe rooms even warn, "It's changing, it's learning," suggesting that the infected may one day become contagious to even those who think they're safe. Fact number 52. The hospital in No Mercy was ground zero for the outbreak. In No Mercy, Mercy Hospital is filled with blood-soaked surgical rooms, infected patients, and barricaded quarantine zones. Environmental storytelling hints that the hospital was one of the first locations hit by the infection, with doctors and nurses trapped inside as their patients turned. The ICU is particularly eerie, a place meant to save lives that became a morgue instead. Fact number 53. Ellis's friend Keith might be dead. Throughout Left 4 Dead 2, Ellis regales the group with bizarre stories about his friend Keith, a guy who seems to have survived every ridiculous, near-fatal accident imaginable. But in the campaign The Parish, Ellis stops telling stories about Keith. Some fans speculate that Keith didn't make it, possibly killed during the events of Dark Carnival or Hard Rain. It's a subtle, tragic hint that Ellis is trying to keep his spirits up, despite losing his closest friend. Fact number 54. The special infected are getting stronger over time. Valve intentionally made the special infected in Left 4 Dead 2 more aggressive and dangerous than those in the first game. Boomers vomit more frequently, hunters pounce with more force, and tanks hit harder. This was done to reflect the virus mutating and the infected becoming more dangerous, a subtle indication that the survivors' odds of survival are shrinking as the infection evolves. Fact number 55. The infected still display human traits. Despite being feral, some infected exhibit startlingly human behavior. Hunters cry out in pain when set on fire. Boomers gurgle, "Help me," when near death. And the witch, if left alone, will sometimes sit in a fetal position, rocking back and forth as if trapped in a memory she can't escape. Valve wanted to remind players that every infected was once a person, and a part of them still is. Fact number 56. The passing implies that Zoe is the new leader. In the passing, Bill is dead, and the group dynamic has changed. Zoe is now seen making key decisions, issuing commands, and keeping the group together. This is a deliberate callback to Bill's role in the first game, implying that his death forced Zoe to step up as the de facto leader, whether she wanted to or not. Fact number 57. The sugar mill in Hard Rain is full of unturned corpses. In Hard Rain, the survivors pass through a sugar mill, and the ground is littered with bodies that haven't reanimated. This is rare. Most corpses in the game are infected. Some fans theorize that the mill's sugar dust may have been contaminated with pesticides or chemicals that killed the infected before they could turn. It's a chilling glimpse at how desperate people became in the outbreak's early days, willing to poison themselves to avoid becoming monsters. Fact number 58. The hunter's body language is meant to resemble a predator animal. The hunter's crouching stance and stalking behavior were modeled after big cats, specifically mountain lions and panthers. Valve wanted the hunter to feel animalistic and predatory, lurking in the shadows and striking from above. His vocalizations are layered with animalistic growls, blending human screams with predatory roars, a haunting reminder that he's still a man inside a beast's body. Fact number 59. The Left 4 Dead timeline is deliberately confusing. Valve intentionally made the timeline of events ambiguous, allowing players to piece together what happened and when based on environmental storytelling. Graffiti in safe rooms references outbreaks in multiple cities, but the dates don't always align. The implication? The infection may not have started in just one place. It could be a global phenomenon, with multiple epicenters and varying stages of infection. Fact number 60. The clowns in Dark Carnival may have turned first. The clown infected in Dark Carnival are particularly disturbing. Their squeaky shoes attract other infected, and their makeup is still intact, implying they turned early in the outbreak, before the chaos fully unfolded. Posters and graffiti hint that the carnival was holding a major event when the infection hit, leading to mass casualties and a horde of infected clowns now doomed to wander the fairgrounds forever. Fact number 61. The plane crash in Dead Air wasn't just an accident. In the Dead Air campaign, the survivors witness a plane crashing in the distance, bursting into flames. If you pay close attention to the radio chatter in the safe room, you can hear a pilot screaming, "They're inside the plane." Valve wanted to convey that the infected had managed to board evacuation flights, turning safe havens into death traps. The infected weren't just spreading on the ground, they were spreading through the skies. Fact number 62. CEDA's failure was worse than the infection. Throughout both games, you find CEDA facilities overrun with infected, their evacuation plans in shambles. Graffiti messages hint that CEDA betrayed survivors, luring them to evacuation centers only to abandon them or execute those showing symptoms. The implication? The government's failure to contain the outbreak may have been the real catalyst for the infection spread, turning rescue centers into death traps. Fact number 63. The witch's crying was originally a child's voice. In early concept stages, the witch's cries were recorded using a young girl's voice, making her even more haunting and tragic. Playtesters found it too disturbing, so Valve changed the vocal effects to a more adult, mournful tone. But some unused audio files still contain that original, childlike wailing, a chilling reminder of what the witch may have once been. Fact number 64. The infected are evolving, and the survivors know it. In the Sacrifice comic, Francis remarks, "They're getting smarter." This line wasn't just for effect. Valve was laying the groundwork for the idea that the infected are evolving, learning, and adapting. The jockeys are more strategic, boomers vomit more frequently, and hunters seem to wait in ambush rather than charge. It's a subtle, unsettling indication that the infection isn't static, it's still growing. Fact number 65. The tank was once just a normal man. The tank, towering and monstrous, still retains shreds of his former humanity. If you listen closely when he roars, you can hear faint words buried beneath the rage, like "help" and "why." Valve wanted to convey that the tank is still aware on some level, trapped inside a body that's no longer his own, consumed by endless, mindless fury. Fact number 66. The witch's transformation was slow and painful. The witch's behavior suggests that her transformation was not sudden. Survivors note that she sits, rocks, and cries rather than attacks immediately, as if she's still partially conscious. Environmental cues, like children's bedrooms and bloodied cradles, imply that she may have lost a child or loved one, making her grief the final trigger that pushed her over the edge into full infection. Fact number 67. The graffiti in safe rooms contains disturbing predictions. Throughout the campaigns, the graffiti in safe rooms often serves as ominous warnings or tragic farewells, but some of it seems to predict future events, referencing things the survivors haven't encountered yet, like infected with special abilities or safe rooms that aren't safe at all. This led some players to speculate that the graffiti was left by other immune survivors who were eventually overtaken, leaving behind their last, desperate messages. Fact number 68. The carnival tents in Dark Carnival are filled with body bags. In Dark Carnival, most players focus on the roller coaster and concert finale. But if you explore the empty tents, you'll find body bags piled in corners, covered with tarps and doused in blood. This suggests that the carnival wasn't just a place where people died. It was a place where survivors tried to dispose of the dead, only to be overrun themselves. The carnival's screams and laughter are long gone, but the bodies remain. Fact number 69. The military may be experimenting on the infected. In the Sacrifice comic, there's a brief mention of military quarantine zones where infected are held for study. Some graffiti references labs in the woods, and military radio chatter implies that some infected are being transported, not exterminated. The implication? The military may be experimenting on the infected, trying to find a way to control or weaponize them, a theme that ties directly into the events of the sequel. Fact number 70. The survivors' endings are left ambiguous. On purpose, Valve intentionally left the fates of the survivors ambiguous, allowing players to imagine their own endings. Did they make it to the safe zone? Did they succumb to the infection? Are they still wandering the world, fighting for every inch of survival? In a game where the world is collapsing, the survivors' endings remain unresolved, haunting, and forever hanging in the balance. A reminder that, in a world overrun by the infected, the true horror is not knowing who made it out alive. And that brings us to the end of our journey through the dark and haunting world of Left 4 Dead. 70 facts that reveal the stories behind the infection, the survivors, and the world they're trying to escape. But the thing about the infection is, it's still out there. It's still evolving, still mutating, still spreading. The survivors' fates are left in limbo. The world is in ruins. And somewhere in the shadows, the infected are getting stronger, smarter, and more desperate. So, what do you think happened to the survivors? Did they make it to safety? Or did they become just another statistic in a world where the living are more dangerous than the dead? Drop your theories in the comments. Did we miss a hidden detail, a chilling clue, or a secret Easter egg? I want to hear your favorite Left 4 Dead memories, or maybe a fact we missed. And if you want more dark, atmospheric lore dives, subscribe and stick around. The infection isn't over. Not yet. Until next time, stay quiet, stay close, and keep your flashlight on. Thanks for watching.